Hello, everyone. This is Two Cents Worth. I'm your host, Ryan DeFaber. This show, we talk about sports, fitness, and life. We talk about my life, we talk about my fitness journey, and we talk about my life in sports and my opinions on all those things. So sit back and relax and enjoy the show. Hello, everyone. Sorry, it has been a few weeks. I will get into why it's been a few weeks since I last recorded. But today on this episode, we are going to talk about the Grand Running Club 75-mile challenge that I did in January. It's the third time I've done it, third time that this company has put it on. They do it, well, as of right now, they've done it two Januaries in a row, and they did it also last July. So I did the first one in January of 20, July of 20, and January of 21. I believe that's correct. No, they've done it 4 times. No, I don't remember. It doesn't matter. I've done it every single time. But they did it in July of this past year. They did it this in January of this year. They did it last January, and maybe they did it the July before. So maybe it's 4 times. I can't remember. It does not matter. Regardless, it's a nice little challenge that they put together. 75 miles. It can be running or walking. Treadmill, outside, does not matter, but it's running or walking for the entire month. You have to get to 75 miles. And why I'm going to talk about this today is because, one, I've done it a few times. I think it's a cool challenge to talk about. And it's a great way to also kind of kickstart your year. And also for the summer months, if they do it again in July or June time frame, it's also nice to kind of get out when there are longer days. The sun's out for a lot longer, and it's warmer. And it's nice to get out and run in the July time frame, June time frame, kind of that mid-year kick in the rear that you might need to kind of keep going through the summer months and into the fall. And then also I'm going to talk about why this one was the hardest one that I have done and some of the reasoning behind that. So, again, it's put on by Grand Running Club. It is a running club that was started in West Hollywood, California. You can follow them at Grand Running Club on Instagram. You can also go to their website, grandrunningclub.com, where they have apparel and everything else, and talk more about who they are. I heard about them. One of their creators, D. Murphy, is on the podcast group chat with Drama. If you ever watched Rob and Big on MTV back in the day, Rob Dyrdek's cousin Drama, who started Young and Reckless clothing apparel. It's him, D. Murphy, and D's brother, Anand Murphy. They're on group chat, and then I started following D, and he also is an owner of Menlo Club, which is also another apparel company, kind of month-to-month type clothing for men, kind of like Stitch Fix and things like that. So started following them. They created Grand Running Club, Grand AC, or now GRC is the hashtag is, hashtag GRC75. And was like, all right, I'm trying to get back into running. This a couple years ago, trying to get back into running. And I said, all right, well, I'll do this challenge because that'll help and kind of keep me motivated. And then you can put stuff on Instagram and see what others are doing and put the hashtag in there. And it's just good motivation, good group of people. And at the end of every challenge, you send in your results. And a little while later, you get free gifts, which is nice. So this time it was $10 to join. So they are kind of evolving, which is nice. They're evolving, trying to become more of like a running company. rather than just doing 1 or 2 challenges a year. And so they used a platform where you would take a picture of your run or walk, post it on there, and that way it was, a nice way to keep track of everything that was going on for your totals. You could see it. It was a nice little platform. It also tell you kind of on average what you need to do day to day to get to that 75 miles of what you were uploading over that time period. So that was nice. And but previously it was free, and you would get a sweatshirt and maybe like a random gift. Like I think it was the last time it was like a sweatshirt and maybe Liquid IV and maybe something else. This time you got a $25 gift card to their website, as well as we're going to get a box with, I think it's like skincare, Liquid IV, and protein bar, something like that. So they're getting sponsors also to kind of help out with this, and it's nice. Again, it's a good motivator to kind of get out and run in different times of the year. So again, you have summertime, you have wintertime. I've done the 2 in the winter, 2 in the summer. I want to say it's summer too, because I want to say I've done it 4 times, because I remember we were in the Dominican, and that was July. Yeah, that was July of 19, and I was having to get miles for that challenge. So I've done July 19, January 20, July 20, January 2021. All right, so I've done it 4 times. Now I'm trying to remember. So what happens in your old age, right? So in the past, last year in July, in July 2020, it worked out perfect because it was right in the middle of my half marathon training. So that was pretty easy for me to get. The training that I had done and where I was, it got me 68.8 miles of running in the program I was following. So, and then I did 14 miles of walking that month. And in total, it was 83.1, so 14.3, 68.8, 83.1 miles. And it followed along with the program that I already had for running wise. So it was perfect. So it fit right into that training. And I just kept moving along, right? I went through July, August, and I ran my half marathon in September. So that was perfect. Perfect timing. Great time for me to do it. I knew I was going to be able to get it. I had no issues. Weather was good. Long days. Work out in the morning. Go on a run when you get back from the gym, which is what I was doing. Knocked it out. Well, this time comes around in January, and I've talked about it in previous podcasts. So I ran my half marathon in September, and then I kind of just went, I disappeared from the running world, I guess you could say. I didn't really run. Maybe once or twice throughout the rest of the fall and winter. Focus my cardio on other areas, but not running. So when it came for this challenge to start up again, I ran a couple times in December to kind of get my body ready, but nothing like I was doing there through the summertime. So why this one was the hardest one for me was for multiple reasons. So one, I hadn't run in a couple months. So trying to get that motivation back regardless, right, to start, that's tough, okay? So having to go from no running to, hey, I got to figure out how I'm going to get 75 miles with running and walking through the month of January. And basically what it comes down to is that you need to average around 2.5 miles a day for 31 days. So that's what you have to kind of put together from a mindset is like, how am I going to be able to get this? What do I need to average? How do I plan out my weeks? So I had that all planned out, and I was going to, start running, 3 to 4 times a week. I was going to be walking, kind of knocking that all out like I've done in the past, where, my running really is a lot more than my walking, but my walking helps supplement the rest of the miles and gets me beyond that. Well, this time, one of the biggest things was I hadn't run in a while. So getting that motivation to go back up and running. Then what I already knew and had experienced in the past, but it was much worse this time, was when you don't run for a while and then you get up and start running again, and you run miles like that, you are prone to potentially getting yourself hurt. And your body reacts in a different way because your body's sitting there going, all right, we didn't pound the pavement before. Now all of a sudden we're doing it. Now all of a sudden you're overworking certain muscles you haven't worked in a while. What are you doing? And I had that in the past where I would get a shin splint, or the knee would flare up a little bit, or maybe the ankle. But this time it was my tendon in my left foot. So I hadn't gone running in a couple months. So that was one obstacle I had to overcome. And then I went out and I started, and it wasn't I wasn't going long miles, but I was going 3 miles, 3.5 miles, a couple days in a row, and all of a sudden my foot starts hurting, like to where, when you extend your toe up as like you would push off on a run, it hurt to where I didn't even want to do that. And so, I'm fighting that and having to rest that. So I went an entire week. It was 8 days without running. So my only mileage I was getting was walking, and I was trying to get 2 miles a day, maybe 2.5 a day, but still even that was tough. So, the time commitment that I needed to get done for walking obviously is a lot longer than what you would need to go out and run 2 miles or 3 miles. And so I'm battling the foot injury. Okay. So I haven't run in a while. Now I'm battling this foot injury, and I'm having to try and figure out, okay, how am I going to get the miles? And even walking, long strides and walking was hurting. So I was like, all right, well, I can't walk every single day, which I wasn't. So I was falling behind. Still was going to be able to get it, I felt. But it was the most worried I had been in any challenge, sitting there going, man, I might not actually finish this challenge for the first time in the 4 times I've done it. So that was a little concerning as well. And so I'm trying to nurse that. I'm trying to figure out what it is. And basically it was tendonitis in the bottom of my foot along my big toe and through my arch. So that was uncomfortable, but icing it, resting it, ended up working. And I was able to run, relatively pain-free for the last 2.5 weeks of the month. So I was able to get that done and taken care of, and being able to be caught up and get the 75 miles. The moral of the story is I did finish the challenge. I did get 75 miles, but I got it exactly 75 miles with 1 day to spare. And the last day of January here in Charlotte, it rained. So I was planning the whole time to get it done by the 30th because I was looking at the weather and I was like, I need to get these miles in and finished before that Sunday because it's going to rain the whole time and I'm not going to want to run in the rain. So let's recap. Haven't run in a while, so the motivation's low, trying to get motivated. Overran. Now I'm hurt. Now let's throw something else in the mix. So to start the year with work, we got this monster project that came up on Christmas Eve, and it basically, for a 3.5 week time period, I ended up working 7 days a week, 100-hour weeks. 1 week it was 102 hours, high 90s. Basically, it averaged 100-hour week, 3 weeks in a row, 7 days a week, working, basically from sun up to sundown to late night, whatever it was. And so then I had to figure out, all right, how am I going to get these miles in with this crazy schedule I have right now for work? I'm working 14 to 16-hour days, 7 days a week. I don't want to be too selfish to my kids as well and be like, sorry, I can't spend the little amount of time that I currently have with you or my wife because Dad needs to go get 3 miles in today, and I'm just not that type of person. I would rather spend my time with my family and my kids than something to get a free sample of Liquid IV at the end of January. I'm not someone to sit here and pound my chest and be like, oh, I did this challenge and it's done, and I sacrificed time with my family and my kids because of it, and because of that I got a gift box. I can run any time of the year. So, so there was that. It was work, and how do you balance that with family time? And it ended up being that I was just there are times where, and I don't like doing this, and you can call me a wuss if you want. I really don't care. But Ryan, you grew up in Rhode Island. You should be okay with the cold. Fuck that. No, I'm not. I've been down here for 22 years. I love warm weather. I hate cold weather. And this month has been, or this month, January was especially cold in Charlotte, on average, colder than it normally is. So I have that going for me. And now I'm having to walk or run I never ran at night past 6 or 7, but there was times where I was walking at 9 o'clock at night through the neighborhood, and I can get 3 miles in my neighborhood, which is nice. You kind of just trace the neighborhood and the roads and the cul-de-sacs and everything. It ends up being about a 5K you can walk. But I'm doing that at 9 o'clock at night. I'm not really, that's not something I really like to do. I like to go to bed at 9 o'clock at night. But because of what was happening with work and trying to get any type of, downtime I had while the kids were awake to spend with them and Lindsay, I'm doing that. So I'm doing things off hour, off my schedule of normal. Even in the morning, I've come home from the gym and it's still dark out, it's freezing out, and I'm walking or running through the neighborhood because that's just what I have to do in order to get the miles that I needed for this. So, that was a huge obstacle to overcome and figure out, like, am I going to be able to do this? Do I still want to do it? And is it really worth it? To get out of it. Thankfully, I did it, and I'm happy I did it. I didn't have to sacrifice a lot of time with my family outside of what was already being taken away from work. But that was there. So I had not running in a long time. Then I hurt myself. Now I have this crazy project at work where it has basically sucked up my entire time every single day of the week for almost a month. And actually, it ended up being over a month. So I say 3.5 weeks. I mean, like I said, Christmas Eve is when we basically got the notification that it was going to kick off, and then it was go time. But it really, yeah, I mean, probably longer than 3.5 weeks, maybe 4.5 weeks, 5 weeks that I was working 100-hour weeks. I can't even remember now. It's such a blur. It's over now, thankfully. Kind of getting back into my normal schedule for work, but. It was a push that we needed to do and get done, and we accomplished it, which was great, but it took a lot. And so, I look at that, and I have those three aspects of it. And then I also mentioned the cold. I am a wuss when it comes to the cold. Yes, I grew up in Rhode Island, but I have spent more time in my life in North Carolina than I have in Rhode Island. So the cold, my body does not remember anymore, nor do I want it to. I don't like cold weather. That's why I love living in North Carolina, because as much as I bitch and moan about cold weather, our winters are maybe a month and a half long on average. Right now we're going through a cold spell. January was on average colder than it has been in North Carolina. February's not been awesome either. It's, to start, still cold and rainy and wet, but we'll get out of it in a couple weeks and we'll see spring a lot sooner than other areas of the country. And then we'll keep that until, November. We'll still have periods of, 70s and high 60s and even into December as well. So I can't complain too much, but the fact that it's in January that this challenge is happening and the weather's cold, it was just not, it was like everything that I had in me to get out there and go. And I had, a beanie on, gloves, sweatshirt, layered up, my gaiter on over my face to kind of keep myself from freezing. I just don't like breathing in cold air either on a run. That's doesn't feel good in the lungs, doesn't feel good. I'm not a fan of it, right? So, all of these things come into play for this challenge. And, in total for January, I used July of last year as an example because, again, I'm in the middle of my half marathon training, and I run almost 70 miles of just running, 14 miles of walking. Well, this year, because of everything that was going on, my schedule, my foot, the weather, everything, I only ran 47 and a half miles, and I walked 27 and a half miles. So, basically doubled the amount of miles I walked and ran 20 less miles than I did in July. And I got to right at 75. I finished like, I think 75.2 to be exact. So I just crossed the threshold, but I was able to do it. and I did accomplish it, and I do feel good about it. And it was a tough challenge. You look at it and go, 75 miles doesn't seem like a lot, even for somebody that does run a lot, which is what I have been doing over the last year or so. But still, 75 miles it does take up a lot of time, especially if you're not planning out long runs. And with my foot, I could run, even now, I can run 3 to 4 miles without any pain. But I think if I start stretching that a little more, 5, 6 miles, I think some of that pain will get in there, fatigue and everything. So I have to continue to kind of work on it throughout the rest of the winter and early spring and make sure that I don't continue to have this issue with my foot and continue to get better so I can run those longer miles. But there were times where I would run 4 miles and I could start feeling it, and it really starting to come back a little bit, and I had to peel back and make sure that I'm not hurting myself, and make sure I ice, ibuprofen, stretch it properly. All of these things. Stretching's key, people, by the way. Stretch. Always stretch. I had Achilles issues before, shin splints before. Those types of things do pop up if you don't stretch properly or wear the proper shoes. So make sure you do that. But this month, it was a tough challenge. It was a fun challenge. And, I had a couple other people that did it as well, which is great. So, of all the challenges I've done, even the first one, when I wasn't really running, I was still able to get to 75 miles. I think I might have got like 78, 79. But now I'm coming off of a time where I ran a half a marathon in September, and now we're in January. It's not that long, right? I mean, it is 3.5 months basically is what it ended up being. But it's not that long off to sit there and be like, oh man, I'm new to running. No, I'm not new to running. And it was still tough. But it was a good way to run. I have not run since July. I will say that. July, I keep saying July. I have not run since January. So, we are into February now. I haven't run since the 30th. I've been doing the Peloton, walking again, excuse me. And so I do want to get back into running and stay consistent. Again, I think the rest on my foot has been good since the challenge has been over. And I hope that it gets a little warmer over the next couple weeks for us, and I can start running in the afternoons after work. Again, not a big fan of running, in the dark, early mornings, or even, late night. It's just not something that I like doing, not comfortable doing it. Just too many variables, safety for multiple reasons, cars, whatever, but also just, uneven sidewalks, tripping up, whatever it might be. And you can have that in the daytime, but at least you can see it a little better in the daytime than you can at night. So the days are starting to get a little longer, which is nice. Hopefully the weather starts getting a little warmer, which will be nice as well. And I'll be able to, keep on pounding the pavement over the next couple months and keep working through the year and staying consistent. But this challenge was the hardest by far. And I'm glad I did it. And I'm glad I was able to kind of figure out what I still needed to do in order to accomplish the goal and finish the challenge without sacrificing too much. Because I could have easily just kept on running and really injured my foot. I could have easily not put my kids to bed or had dinner with them and said, no, I'm going to go spend the next 30 to 40 minutes running instead. But I didn't. I could have easily told work, hey, it's past a certain time. I'm cutting off. I'm not going to do that either. I'm not going to sacrifice that as well when my entire team was working their tails off to get this project up and running and successful. It wasn't going to turn my back on my entire team either and say, I have to go do this for myself. We were in it as a team, and as a leader of that team, I needed to make sure that we stayed the course, and I was there with them while they were pumping out as many hours as I was. So, it was and the weather. Honestly, the weather. If it wasn't as cold, I probably would have run a little longer in the mornings or walked a little longer in the mornings before the sun came up. But it was just so cold, freezing, uncomfortable, just not something I am a fan of. I would rather run when it's warmer in the summer and things like that. That's just what I like to do rather than cold. No, thank you. So, not running in a while, hurting myself, crazy work schedule, cold. Four things that I had not. Now, the injury thing I had dealt with before, um, but it wasn't as long of a time off that I needed to take. 8 days without really running, and times where I didn't even want to walk. Out of 31 days, that sucks up a lot of your time, especially when you're behind a little bit. You have to catch up, and then you're catching up after an injury, which is also a little dangerous game to play. So, all those things came into play this month, but I did it. It was accomplished. I appreciate Grand Running Club for putting it together. It's always fun, and I have a shirt coming my way from their store that I got, a nice performance tee, as well as the box of goodies that they will be sending me, and all for $10 to that's worth it to me. I think a lot of races cost way more than that to run in, so it was good for kicking off the year. Good to get that cardio in. Good to get those miles in and be outside and even on the treadmill at the gym if I needed to. And it was also good to kind of fight through some of the adversity and the crazy hours of work and not sacrificing time with my family. So overall, it was my hardest. It was the most difficult I've done of all the challenges with them. But just like all of them, it was rewarding at the end of it. I'm glad I did it. And the next challenge that comes up of theirs, within reason, I've seen some of the things of people saying, oh, they need to put on a marathon or anything like that. I'm not doing that. The extent of my running goes to half marathon. I'm not doing marathon training. That is a time suck. It is not something I have any interest of doing. I would do a half marathon again, but I would not do a marathon. So don't ask me. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to train for it. Don't try and convince me. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. I'm set, and we're good with that. But a next challenge that they'll come up with, whether it's the 75 miles again or whatever it might be, I would certainly look into it and probably do it because I've done all the other ones and they're great, and it is a good motivator to get you through that month, and it helps set you up for what you need to do for a cardio perspective. And it's good. It's good to stay healthy, and I appreciate them for that, for putting that on. So that's it. As always, hope you like the podcast. Share it with your friends. Let me know if you like it. Let me know if there's any topics you want me to talk about in future episodes, but I'm still here. I did take a couple weeks off. I had to. This is why. Crazy hours at work. That's what pays the bills, not this, so that's okay. But I am still here. I'm still going to put out content as I've promised. And this is where I'm at. So thanks. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you soon.